Going into The Conjuring Last Rites, my expectations were honestly pretty modest. I adored the first two Conjuring movies.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
They're some of my all-time favorite horror films, but I really didn't like The Devil Made Me Do It.
You suck, you jackass!
That movie felt flat, uninspired, and it didn't live up to the franchise's reputation for genuinely terrifying and memorable horror. Since Last Rites is directed by the same person, I couldn't shake the worry that this just be another letdown. Still, I held onto a little bit of faith that maybe they could turn things around and recapture even a fraction of what made the first two films so special. After watching it, I'd say this was a solid movie, but still a bit disappointing overall. It's not train wreck like the third entry, but it's nowhere near as iconic as the first two. There are definitely parts of Last Rites that work really well and make you think, okay, this is the franchise I love. But there are also way too moments where the film feels like it's dragging, like it's going through the motions, or like it doesn't quite know what made the earlier installments stand out in the first place. The basic story this time around sees Ed and Lorraine Warren once again helping a troubled family deal with terrifying supernatural forces. Alongside this, the Warrens also face personal challenges of their own, which adds another layer to the story. As usual, Lorraine's psychic connection to the supernatural is at the heart of the narrative, and the film builds toward a final confrontation where love, faith, and determination come together. On paper, it sounds like classic Conjuring, and in some ways it is, but the execution isn't always there. Now on to the positives. First, the cinematography is gorgeous. If nothing else, the series has always nailed its atmosphere, and Last Rites is no exception. From the moody, dimly lit interiors to the way the shadows creep across the frame, the movie looks and feels eerie in all the right ways. Even when the story itself wasn't gripping me, I still admire the visuals and the way the camera work added tension. Another big highlight is the acting. Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga have been the heart of this franchise since the very beginning, and they once again prove why. Their performances bring so much sincerity to Ed and Lorraine Warren that they elevate the material. Even when the writing isn't the strongest, you buy into everything because of how grounded and emotional they make their characters feel. I've always loved Lorraine and Ed, and this movie didn't change that. Surprisingly, the jump scares were actually pretty effective here. Normally, I'm not someone who loves cheap jump scares, but I have to give credit where it's due. Last Rites uses them in ways that were genuinely startling, and they worked better than I expected. Coming from a guy who doesn't usually praise jump scares, that's saying something. And then there's the ending. Closing out the movie with a wedding was a really nice, satisfying touch. It gave a sense of closure and warmth to everything, which I think was important since this franchise has been running for years now. It felt like a nod to the fans and to the characters we've followed for so long, and I appreciated that. Now, for the negatives, and trust me, there are some big ones. First off, Judy, the daughter of Ed and Lorraine, is written so unbelievably stupid in this movie that I actually wanted Annabelle to kill her. I don't say that lightly, but her character was maddeningly frustrating. The worst example is when she's standing in a completely dark room with creepy noises coming from every direction, and instead of running the hell out, she just stands there looking around like she's trying to figure it out.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
It's horror movie stupidity at its peak, and it completely took me out of the scene. The problem is the runtime. This movie is way too long, and it drags noticeably in several places. Instead of being tightly paced, Last Rites enriches itself with filler and unnecessary subplots. It felt like the filmmakers were more interested in extending the movie than in making sure every scene mattered.
What the f*** is this piece of shit?
The filmmaker that Ed and Lorraine help in this one just isn't all that interesting. One of the things that made the families in the first two movies so effective was that you care about them. They were sympathetic, relatable, and compelling. Here, the family feels more like background noise. Their struggles never hit the same emotional chords, and it made me less invested in their fate. And my final major negative, the lack of truly standout scenes. The original Conjuring had unforgettable moments like the exorcism, while the Conjuring 2 gave us the terrifying non-attack scene. There were set pieces that stuck with you long after the credits rolled, but Last Rites doesn't have anything like that. It has creepy moments, sure, but nothing that I'll remember weeks or months from now. For a franchise like this, that's a huge disappointment. So overall, The Conjuring Last Rites is a fun installment, but nothing more. It's certainly an improvement over The Devil Made Me Do It, but it still doesn't come close to recapturing the brilliance of the first two films. Between the solid cinematography, the strong acting from Wilson and Farmiga, and the satisfying ending, there are definitely things to appreciate here, but the dumb character decisions, the dragged out runtime, the bland filming, and the lack of memorable scenes hold it back. At the end of the day, I'd call it a decent but underwhelming entry. My score 6.5 out of 10. So that's my take on The Conjuring Last Rites, but now I want to know what you think. Did you enjoy this one more than I did? Or were you also let down by it? Do you think this franchise still has some life left? Or should they just stop here? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear them. Thanks so much for checking out my review, and until next time, take care and I'll see you soon.